Hello, guys. I can see Ivan here. Hello.
Hi all.
Hi. Hi, Ivan. Hi, Olena. Hi, Chantal. Our guest today is Chantal. And just a second. We still have, I guess we still have a few people missing. So I guess I'll use this time to just say a few words about what this what this program, what this sort of meeting is about. We started it, if let's say, I think about 6 months ago. I had this idea of um, meeting people who speak two, three, or more languages, and discussing how they got to know these languages. And I think it gives a lot of motivation, a lot of inspiration to other learners. So it started just like a class. We started it as a part of our class, and it was always very nice. We got to meet really interesting people, and then it kind of developed. And um, every time we meet a new guest, it's always a surprise. So, Chantal, thank you for coming. And today, um, today we're going to talk about your experience, I guess, as a psychologist working with, different. Um, we're working with youth, and also your volunteer experience, your travel experience, which sounds really exciting. And also, we were going to talk a little bit about Canada, I guess. So, yeah, and thank you for being with us, I guess. So let's start. Oh, so um, I would like to I would like to start with asking you uh, a little bit about, please just talk a little bit about what you're doing right now. And I know that you study and work. So could you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here. Hopefully we'll see some more join, and
Yeah,
whoever
yeah,
gets to see
yeah,
online
they
later.
will.
So my name's Chantal Joubert. I live in Canada, so from Canada. And right now I am mostly a full-time student. So I am working towards a Master's of Divinity in Clinical Counseling at Tyndale University, which is in Toronto in Ontario. And I'm
Mhm.
doing that mostly, but I also work for the university. They have a intercultural ministry center, and I'm on as a research assistant, helping them with different projects that they're working on. Currently an app that they have that helps communities understand better the different people groups that are in their area, especially in Toronto. It is one of the most multicultural cities in Canada, and in the world probably. And so lots of different communities have mixture of different people groups. And so it helps people who want to reach out and serve and care for those people groups, understand who they are, their backgrounds, different things like that. So I do a bit of research on that and creating the content that goes on the app.
Is it a lot of work with people, or do you study like theoretical material and research? Well, so is it more of like a people kind of job, or it's more academic? How do you define that?
Yeah, for now, I'm a bit more on the academic side of things. They
Mm-hmm.
do have also people who are called engagers. So they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones who are a bit more on the ground, know people in the community, are talking to people who would want to use our resources, and also the people groups that are in their area. So that's a little bit a different role within our center. So the role that I'm doing is a lot more research, like online things that are already out there and collecting them and putting them into one place. So yes, less work with people, which kind of works for me just during this pandemic and everything kind
Yeah,
of being geared towards home. It works a little bit better for me.
I see. But I guess you get exposed to very interesting materials as a part of your job. How do you get to this idea? Was it just like a random choice when you started working in the center?
So I guess like how did I come to be in this position? Is that your question?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
Because we spoke a lot about, you know, your volunteering travels. I thought whether was it connected to this
oh,
or
I
was it
see.
just something
Okay.
else?
Yeah, it was appealing to me. So primarily it was appealing to me because I've done research in my undergraduate studies. So
Hmm.
that piece of it felt kind of familiar, like I'd done similar things before. So I didn't mind doing the research part of it. And then
Hmm.
also the fact that it was multicultural, it was very missional oriented. A lot of the traveling and volunteering that I've done has been with missions work, with missions organizations. And so part of that was very appealing to me, the idea of like reaching out to those communities as
Hmm.
churches, wanting to care for them, serve them well. That the purpose of the organization itself is definitely part of why I chose to join it.
Mm. So when you say communities, what I'm also curious, what kind of like you talking about different confessions or because I know that also Canada is very multicultural, so I guess there are
Yes.
many different groups of many communities like from
Yeah.
different background living there.
Yeah,
So
community is an easy word because it kind of encapsulates a lot of different pieces because you
hmm.
can have people groups that are more defined by their nationality, or you can have
Hmm.
people groups that are more defined by their faith, their religion. And so like a lot of those pieces come together to create different communities. Um,
Hmm.
and exactly, so like each community is going to be different with all those different factors involved.
Hmm.
So we do look like a little bit more specifically, like a few profiles I was working on, for example, were Lebanese Arab Muslims.
I
So that
see.
was one people group I looked into. But
Hmm.
Lebanese people, there are also Christians, there's also Druidism, there's different faiths as well, but there was
Yeah.
different people groups that we were wanting to really focus our attention on because we knew that there were people already in the Toronto area
Hmm.
like working with those people, or they're kind of a greater population. So they're like more of a priority who we wanted to look into and
I
create
see.
resources for.
Oh, I can see that Vlad joined us, and I just wanted to introduce you shortly to the students who are here. Um, and also, I just wanted to, totally forgot to say that, and I wish Elena could say that herself. Actually, the first we met thanks to Elena.
Yeah.
Maybe you will tell the story about how you met. Okay, you'll tell yourself. Um, but we have Ivan and Vlad here with us. So I just wanted to ask you guys to introduce yourselves very shortly to Chantal, because you know, I think it's easier if we just introduce ourselves and then we can all ask questions. So yeah. So Vlad, maybe you start.
Hi, I'm Vlad. I live in Ukraine, Odessa. I working as a developer. Um, Maybe that's all.
Yeah, thank you. Chantal, have you ever been to Odessa?
Not Odessa, but I did live in Ukraine for 3 months on an exchange trip.
Wow,
So yeah, just a short
really?
period of time, but it was a very great experience.
Did you live in one place or did you
We
travel around?
we primarily lived in one place.
Hmm.
There were a couple days that we got to do day trips. So we went to Lviv, we went to Kiev, and Lena brought me to her hometown Lutsk for
Well,
a day or
Lutsk.
a weekend.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I see. Ivan, could you also introduce yourself shortly? if it's okay.
Tanya, can you please stop sharing screen because we see black window and small.
Oh, really? I'm sorry.
video.
I thought you could. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
this is much better. Thanks. Okay. So, Ivan, could you say just a few words about yourself?
Yep, hello, my name is Ivan. I'm 30 years old. Now I live in Kherson, Ukraine also. I'm now working as a data analyst in the same company as Vlad. So we are co-workers in some way.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Chantal.
I feel I feel like the first time I've never been to Ukraine, and all I'm the only one who's never been to Ukraine, although my grandfather was born there, and he always told me that I still have family there, and yeah, it will happen one day. I will definitely do it. Okay. So maybe Chantal, you can also shortly say how you and Elena met for the first time.
Yes. Yeah. So I participated in a youth volunteer exchange program. It was called Canada World Youth. And so through that program, we were placed in different countries for the exchange. So they placed me in Ukraine. And so we lived there for 3 months and then Canada for 3 months. And there were Ukrainian students, such as Lena, who were going to the National University of Ostrog Academy. And they were paired with us Canadians, and Lena and I were paired for the 6 months.
Wow, so nice. I wanted to ask you about this experience as well. Did you you started participating in this program when you were an undergraduate student?
It was before university, so I took a year between graduating high school and university and did it. So I wasn't studying or anything. Unlike the Ukrainians, they were all students on the trip, so they did it during their undergraduate.
So is it was it like a gap year in England that they, you can go anywhere, you can do community work, things like that? Is it
Yeah,
obligatory or just a matter of choice?
Yeah, it's definitely a matter of choice. It's not obligatory. So it's a very similar idea. I would have called it a gap year if I was explaining it to people, and that's how they would have understood what I meant. But people do different things with their gap years. You can use it for all kinds of things. You can work before you go to study, or you could do volunteer exchange like I did. A lot of people I know have done exchange programs, or even just traveling. Some people just love to kind of do it at their own pace. But it's something I chose. I wanted to take a break before going into school, just figure out a little bit more of like what I wanted to do, who I am, explore the world a little bit and gain some perspective before, going to university for another 4 years.
So I wonder if it's even before you started your studies. So I'm just wondering, you came to this volunteering experience and with a kind of an open mind. So you said I was placed in Ukraine, so it wasn't your choice, right? You were told, okay, so this group goes to Ukraine. Was it a bit scary? I was just not scary because Ukraine is scary, just because you're going far away from home for the first time. It's just completely different country, different culture. How did it feel?
Yeah, I was a little bit nervous, mostly excited. I think I had been wanting to travel for a long time, so it felt like something I was ready to do. It wasn't my first time ever going away on my own. Thankfully, through school, I had the opportunity to also do an exchange trip to France. It wasn't for as long. So that was the bit that was different. I only went for about 10 days. So I'd had that previous experience of being away from my own family and being in a new culture. So it wasn't totally brand new in that respect. But I think because of how long it was going to be, how long I was going to be away from home, not knowing who I was going on the trip with, that was a big question mark. With the school trip, we went with our classmates. So we only had to meet the the French exchange students, but this one, everyone was brand new. So didn't have a whole lot of, I didn't know what to expect. I guess that was the bit that was a little bit more maybe intimidating.
And I also wanted to talk about the language, because when it was with the French exchange program, I guess you didn't have any language barrier at all, with French
No,
being.
yeah, you're right. So yeah, it was because I went to French school, so that's another language that I know fluently. So when we went, it wasn't really a question of being totally helpless in speaking. There were probably some bumps in the road, just again, like differences in dialects, things like that, or how you say things. We had to be taught some things that you don't say because it means something else there. So we did that a little bit. But yeah, Ukraine, I had no Ukrainian available to me whatsoever. So that was brand new.
So, yeah, do you guys have any questions at this stage? Maybe later. It's also fine. Yeah, I actually do have another question about the exchange program. When you went there, do you have to teach? What kind of, like, what was the purpose of it? What did you have to do some work? How, so it's just, or was it just just meeting new people? So if you could tell a little bit more about this.
Yeah, there were work placements. So I think a big push with the organization Canada World Youth is it was very like community oriented. So they wanted us to be really immersed in the community, give back to the community. So we did have placements, a variety of ones in the town we were in. And so everyone had different ones though. So they also paired up one Canadian, one Ukrainian per work placement. So I didn't work with Lena, I worked with another Ukrainian on our trip. And my placement was with the university. I was actually doing English presentations on Canadian culture. So it was kind of similar thing to this, in fact. So we were creating just presentations to kind of, teach about Canada, the culture, and it was in the English classes at the university to kind of
do you still have
to
these
practice
presentations?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we should have one.
It was not good. It was so, I look back, it's very funny now. It was very simplistic. I would add a little bit more now, I think.
I see. Actually, I had a question to the others. Have you ever tried an exchange program at any stage of your life? Vlad, Ivan, Lena, I know you did, but
No. I have
never tried.
not such an experience.
Ivan, what about you?
Yep, me too.
No. We only had one, and it was kind of funny, very unexpected, because they were. I'm not sure if we're not a language school. Only language schools had this, but our school had this exchange program because our physics teacher had some connections with another physics teacher in Florence. So he just wanted to go to Italy. So I don't know how he got the budget. So he took us along. It was really fun.
Sounds
we
incredible.
didn't know any Italian, so we just had to go there. But it's always great. I think it's just one of the ways to meet, you live in a different family. You just see things from the inside. That's amazing. Did you have to live in families, or you just lived together with the other program participants?
We lived with families, so it was also like a different family than either Lena or I knew. So it was just someone in the community who was willing to house 2 students. So yeah, we had our own little home host families in each phase of the trip as well.
Did you, I know Ukraine is not the only country where you spend a long time in, but I didn't write this question, but I want to ask you about Canadian food. Is it very different from, I don't know, from Ukrainian food, or from, I know you were in Peru as well, so I guess you found something. How was it for you to
Yes. Well, I really enjoyed Ukrainian food. I always say I gained quite a bit of weight eating a lot of food when I was there because it was all so good, and perhaps I didn't curb my appetite so quickly. So yes, I really enjoyed it. Canadian food is kind of hard to describe because we're so multicultural. Canadian food is just kind of a mixture of cultures. So you might find Ukrainian food in Canada.
I
Maybe
guess
people cook
so.
that very, very frequently if they have Ukrainian heritage.
Right.
There's and different restaurants of different different cultures. And so it's kind of a mixture. I wouldn't say I've really cooked anything like in Ukraine. I think the most similar thing was like the potato pancakes. I forget exactly what they're called, but there's like a similar thing in my own Acadian culture called poutine, and it's like the same texture and everything. So that was familiar to me. So I loved those quite a bit.
That's exactly what my grandfather loved most. He said this, and still, when we have the day, like we have like kind of a remembrance day for like my grandfather, we always cook those because my grandfather is from Ukraine, and he was from Ukraine, and this is what he loved most. Excuse me, draniki.
Yeah,
that's it. So I even have pictures of those because I send them as proof to my family. I said, today I made this to remember grandpa. So here's a picture. Yeah, draniki. Okay. How do you call them in Canada? What's the name?
Pierogies.
What? Could you spell it? I will write it on the screen.
Like the vareniki is like pierogies, right?
No. Vareniki.
The potato pancake, that's a different word, isn't it?
Yeah. Potato. You just call them potato pancakes. There's no special word for it.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Pancakes, potato pancakes. Potato pancakes are draniki.
Oh, those. Okay, I understood vareniki.
Vareniki is well, there are different types of vareniki, with cherries, with potatoes, with you can have them with different.
So in North America, you'll typically just see them with potato and cheese, or like sometimes like bacon, like very, very Americanized, very Canadianized. You don't see it with fruit. You don't see it with kind of a lot of mixture. They're very, simple. So I miss the really good ones.
I see.
From Ukraine. Yeah.
I know that we're going to talk a little bit more, I think, also about your other travel. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your studies. As you told me that you're studying psychology. So again, how did you decide to study psychology? What kind of psychology is interesting to you? I don't know, there are different types: social psychology, I don't know, therapy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So my undergraduate degree technically it was called behavioral science. So it was a mixture of psychology and sociology. So I had a bit more of a balance, but I chose to focus a lot more on the psychology side of things. So I wouldn't say I'm like specialized in psychology at this point, but I guess I will be equipped for like therapy, going into clinical counseling. So I chose to go into this field. I especially just love people. I love interacting with them. I love understanding them. I love helping them and things like that. So I think the reason I'm in my current studies, so it is a seminary, so that's why my master's is in divinity, which pretty much just means biblical studies, that kind of thing. And so I wanted to combine the two. I wanted to bring in spiritual care with mental health. I want that to be an integrated part of my profession down the road. I think it's important to have holistic care of the person, and you don't always get that. I think we're growing, the field's growing towards that end, but I wanted to intentionally have the two pieces because I do want to help others.
You
with
said that it's important to have, I think we can stop here for just a little bit because you mentioned a few things that I think might be a bit unclear.
Okay.
When you say holistic care, and you said it's a little, we're progressing, we're getting there. So you feel like psychology wasn't spiritual enough. That was the meaning?
So yeah,
could you say a few words about this? Because I know not everyone's.
Yes, fair. Yeah,
Okay.
with the trends, with if we look back to kind of the more like modernity period, which would be kind of like earlier 1900s, you know, up until maybe the 90s even. It was focused a lot more on pure science, pure facts, things like that. So psychology was only taken seriously because it was a science, because it was based on things you can objectively observe. So for the longest time, psychology was very separate from anything spiritual. But now with we're moving into like a more postmodern era, where we're realizing that what you can observe with science is not the whole human experience. So there is a very important side of the human experience that doesn't get totally covered when you're just looking at kind of what was originally seen as just pure science and facts, things like that. So that's where I would say
I would say maybe today we have a mixture of behavioral, spiritual, and cognitive, maybe.
Yes, yeah, definitely. The typical, I'd say, like if I'm talking about a holistic model, it's usually a bio, psycho, social, spiritual. So biology, psychology,
social. I missed social.
Sociology. Yeah. So I'd say the cognitive would probably be the more like bio, right? What's happening?
Yeah. So that
literally
would be
in your brain,
same
physically
category.
in your brain. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So do you think of working more with children or with adults?
I'm open.
What do you prefer?
Yeah, I'm open right now because I haven't had the personal experience of knowing what therapy with each group is. So I'm kind of open to trying the different things, and I'll get a chance to. My program requires an internship, and you need so many therapy hours, supervised hours, before you become a registered psychotherapist. So I'm assuming like through that practice, I'll get to know a little bit more, but I think I would prefer working with couples. I think I would, like marriage therapy is something that I'm really passionate about, because I think healthy communication is really important. And sometimes you need to kind of zone in on relationships instead of just simply with one individual. It doesn't always get you where you need to go when it's two people that need to kind of work together to get to a place. So that's where in my mind I think I'll head, but I'm still open.
Well, that's a super interesting field. Seriously, I've read a couple of books about it. I totally support this approach. I think well, never mind. It's a long story. We need a different broadcast for that. For marriage and communication. I think it's really interesting, but yeah. Do you feel that your volunteering experience kind of enriched your study experience? Do they have any sort of connection, or do you think of them as totally different worlds or totally different parts of you?
No, I would say most everything in my life is really integrated. I mean, again, kind of like going back into that holistic
Sure.
idea is like everything that we've experienced kind of shapes who we are and how we understand the world. And especially so when you've done like intercultural experiences, it helps you have
Mhm.
a more nuanced understanding. And so that's helped me so much,
Mhm.
especially in like
Yeah.
understanding other people, learning like every course that I've taken when it comes to psychology, counseling, there's usually a specific focus on gender, a specific focus on culture, and how that changes how you do therapy.
Mhm.
Because especially in Canada, we're going to encounter people from all different backgrounds, different cultures, and that shapes entirely how you're going to approach therapy with someone.
Yeah, totally. Um, I'm also very curious about your other travel. Could you say a little bit about the countries you spent time in, the languages you got exposed to?
Yeah, definitely. So well, I mentioned
Okay.
I went on the exchange trip to France. So that one was
Mhm.
I think I was 14 or 15, and then
Mhm.
Ukraine when I was 18. And then my first year of university, when I was about 19, I went to Peru for the first time, and I went again 2 more times after that, and each time I went for about 6 weeks. We were in Lima the whole time. Wasn't really traveling around. We were staying in one city at one hostel that whole time. We were on university campuses, so it was actually through an organization called Power to Change in Canada that focused on where we involved were focused on university students. So where I was involved at my campus in Canada, we were a community of Christians. So we were offering to be a community to other people who are on campus, a place where people could come and find other people who wanted to talk about spiritual things and kind of create a culture on campus that made it more okay to talk about and be open about. And so in Peru, they had a similar group and they wanted to expand and have us come and join them in helping them do that because it was smaller or because I think they just also wanted us to have those multicultural experiences and joining and seeing how it was different there, things like that. And so that was pretty much what it looked like the whole time, was just spending all day on campus, talking to people all day, every day. So I had lots of experience. That's how I learned Spanish. So that's a little bit of the other.
That's how you learned.
language.
That was
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa. So this was your first the first time you got I'm sure you heard, of course you've heard Spanish before that, but you were massively exposed to Spanish.
Yeah.
And did you take a course or you just learned from the communication? How did it happen to you?
I took some basic Spanish in high school. That was an option for language that I did take. So I had a very basic language level going in, not a lot, just like kind of an understanding, some basic phrases, that kind of thing. But it was really through being there, interacting with locals, actually having to use my Spanish. We were on a university campus. My first 2 years, we were on a public university campus, which didn't require them to learn English. So a lot of students didn't speak any English that we engaged with. My third year, I went to, it was a private university and it was mandatory to take English. So that was kind of a treat. I had more experience I got to go deeper with people sometimes just because my language was so limited. So having two people that have two languages, you have a better chance of getting somewhere. But it was really great the first few times because it made sure I was really immersed. So I was really practicing all day, every day, pretty well.
And you also mentioned that you had to talk about spiritual things. I guess it isn't easy, especially if you speak in a different language in Spanish, it's just.
Thankfully, they gave us some resources that was bilingual. So I had English and Spanish on it. So that helped a lot. But I kind of find it funny now because the research I did in my undergraduate was about spiritual experience and language. and how a lot of the time our spiritual experiences are really difficult to describe. If you have an experience that feels otherworldly or kind of divine or transcendent, it's really hard to explain that in our everyday terms. So we were looking at whether having multiple language actually helped make that an easier process to make sense of that or to communicate that to other people. And funny enough, we found
that is super interesting.
We found that it wasn't whether you had more language, but the fact that your language is really grounded in your experience. So if you experienced spirituality and religion and faith in a certain language, that was the language that was going to be most accessible to you. And for me personally, though I speak French fluently, I've never, or very rarely have had like spiritual experiences in French. I've gone to like my family's weddings, funerals, like very like those occasional events at a French Catholic church, but everything else to do with my faith has been in English and Spanish. So even though Spanish is not it's my third language, and I would say I speak it maybe intermediately, not completely fluently, I'm more comfortable speaking about spiritual things in Spanish or communicating about spiritual things in Spanish than in French.
Whoa, that reminds me of what I feel is, that reminds me what I felt when I came to Israel. I remember having thoughts about certain things in certain languages. So I remember that, for instance, it was always easier for me to talk, about relationships in English, because I was used to reading in English, and I had many English-speaking friends. So it was easier for me, but it was, for example, if you would say, well, let's talk philosophy or I don't know, religion, so it would be Russian. And slowly it started changing because, I had to learn Hebrew and stuff, but it was really that I had certain things related to a certain language, and I think it still is influencing me. So so this research, did you publish it, or was it just a paper? I don't know.
So yeah, it was kind of like an honors thesis, if that's like a familiar kind of term or level, I guess. So it was something that we did through like the undergraduate program, like it was a course, I guess, technically. So it didn't have to get published to accomplish our original goal with it, but we did start the process of trying to publish it. The hard bit about it is my research partner and I are now very far away, and kind of have different things going on, but we'd have to do some significant amount of work for it to kind of meet the requirements for a publisher. So it would take probably another year's worth of working together. So I think for now we've kind of waited to see if it will work out, but it technically could be submitted to be published. So that's kind of on our goal list. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you. Well, I think I had some questions. Okay, guys, I think it's too much of me talking, so I would like us to ask you. Oh, actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about Canada, so let's do it together. So I wanted to ask also Ivan and Vlad. Let's ask one or two questions each about, I guess, any aspect of life in Canada. Okay, so maybe, well, let's start with Vlad. I can see that you're on camera. Good. So yeah, also I'll think about my questions as well. Okay.
I know in Canada it's cold right now.
Yeah, it is. I think currently where I am, it's -4 Celsius.
-4.
Wow.
Well, it's not very cold.
How you live in this, like Siberia?
Oh, it gets a lot colder. I think earlier this week it went to like -20, so it can get a lot colder.
I guess the houses are, again, I'm not sure, but the houses must be warm and cozy in this, in case it's so cold outside, must be very
Yeah.
warm inside.
Yeah, it
And
depends
how
on your
you
heating
heat?
system. But where
Uh-huh,
I am, it is quite warm. Actually, I have a radiator that just
uh-huh,
blares heat because
uh-huh.
my building has a fixed temperature. Legally, in Canada, your rental buildings need to be at a certain temperature. And for me, I find it's too hot, but I can't decide. I can't
Oh,
change
you
it.
can't
So
change it.
for
Oh,
me, where my building is, because it's an apartment and it's an older one, there's only one thermostat and it's in the basement in the building. Just
mm-hmm.
fixes the temperature.
Okay.
Is it electrical heating or maybe
It's
it's
hot water, radiators
water?
that have hot water that run through them.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
what is heat water?
I think it's a boiler.
It's
Is it like a
electrical maybe.
central heating, or is it somewhere? Because I remember we had it in Moscow. It was not even in the building. They had the system of heating different buildings. It was huge and
No, I don't think so. It's in Canada, like big
Yeah.
stations, heating stations.
Oh, yeah. It kind of depends from house to house. I mean, everyone has access to electricity, but some people, like my parents, for example, back in New Brunswick, where I grew up, they have a wood furnace.
Hmm.
So they use that. They also can use electric baseboards, for example. But
That's so romantic. So they do actually buy wood and they've hit the
yeah,
house now.
yeah.
Yesterday, and if I could, I would show you this picture. My friend, we had snow yesterday. I told Ivan already, but Vlad doesn't know. It happens once in a few years. So it's been 8 years, Vlad, since we had snow in Israel, like this
Wow.
snow this big, like massive snow. And yesterday, a friend of mine who lives on my street sent me a picture of him. He played a YouTube video showing wood, wooden fire, because he wanted to feel how, it's snow outside. So he watched this YouTube video. He said, "Oh, I just stayed up and watched this video for a few hours."
Wow.
Just the wood, wooden fire. It's so funny. Okay. So, Ivan, I guess it's your turn. Canada, psychology, or anything else, or volunteering.
To say truth, I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Go for it. That's perfect.
First of all, is a little bit funny. Do all Canadians love Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reagan.
Ryan Reynolds, it's actor
Reynolds.
who played Deadpool.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. It's a little bit of like, I am proud that he's Canadian.
I saw a video about how Canadians love Ryan Reynolds, and some I don't know what department is it, but some of department of Canadian just send him some video. Why do they love Ryan Reynolds? It's so funny and so cute.
Ryan Reynolds,
Ryan
Canadian
Reynolds.
actor.
Hello.
Just a second. I'm just going to,
Hello.
because
Hello. What's your
Just-
name?
oh, hey.
What's your name?
My name is Vlad.
You're
Oh,
also Vlad.
You're also Vlad.
Yeah, it's also Vlad.
Oh,
Very
oh.
nice. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Vlad.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, it's great. You speak English.
Yeah. Does your dad teach you English, or do you learn it in school?
Ты в школе учишь или я тебя учу? In school.
In school.
In school.
Let's go.
Very good.
Good. Ivan, is that Ryan Reynolds, the one that you're talking about?
Yep, and I sent a link to video that I mentioned in our chat.
Okay. Here.
It's
Just
really
a second.
cute and funny.
now I'm screen sharing. Do you see it? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, just a second. Just we're gonna watch just a few, I guess, just a few seconds just to get the idea. I must share sound for everyone to be able to hear it. Give us a little background, maybe. Who is he? I'm not. I don't. I feel a bit embarrassed because I don't know him.
Oh, really? He is in a lot of movies.
I
He's quite a famous actor.
Yep.
He's married to what's her name? Blake. I forget her name. I forget her full name now.
Ivan, do you know who's?
I know the name Blake and
Yeah.
what's her name?
Okay.
I'll
So
look
yeah,
it
we'll watch just a few seconds and then. Okay.
They said Bryan Adams was busy, and Nickelback all had to work. They meant to call Drake, but called me by mistake, so you're stuck with a song by this jerk. They asked me to write you a number to show you just how we all feel. We know you're a fan of the land we call Canada, but here's what I've got to reveal: that Canada loves you back. Canada loves you back. Canada loves you back. Canada loves you back. Wherever you go, we want you to know that Bryan, Canada loves you back. A genuine Canadian.
That's so nice.
I feel like I've actually seen that video. It seems familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I must say that thanks to Ivan and other members of that group, unfortunately, not everyone is here today. I get, you know, I get to learn a lot about cinema. I am terribly behind, behind the age. I just watch. I watch a lot of black and white movies. I don't know what's going on there, so don't be surprised. It's just me. Okay, I really don't know many celebrities. I'm like, who's that? Oh, my God, that's a celebrity. I just don't know. But okay, good to know. So he's Canadian, he's famous, and yeah. So Ivan, your question was?
All Canadians love Ryan Reynolds.
Like in the song.
Yeah.
I think just like anyone, there's probably some mixed opinion, but maybe it's just just because he's Canadian, it's kind of a nice thing that you are proud of him. But he's not the only famous Canadian, so
I know Kim
yeah.
Cattrall. She played Samantha in Sex and the City.
Oh yeah, there you go. No wonder.
Yeah, she's Canadian.
In the video they listed, right? Oh, I tried to get Drake. I tried to get he lists a few other Nickelback. They list a few other kind of more famous Canadian artists. I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Ivan, you said you have many questions. You're most welcome to, go for it.
Yep. Second one is how important is to know French in Canada? Do you live without it?
That's a good question. It depends on the region. So Canada is very big. Every province has a different official language. So most of Canada is English. Quebec is French. And I think it's about 97% French speaking. So it would be very important in Quebec. And then New Brunswick, where I'm from, it's actually the only province that's officially bilingual. So French and English. So that one, you can get by with not speaking French. I think about half and half kind of speak either both or just French, something like that. Yeah, there's a great picture. So Quebec is the kind of orange light orange
Yeah,
one.
here's Quebec. Mhm.
And next door is New Brunswick. So that's where
Okay.
I grew up. And then I'm in Ontario right now, which is the yellow one. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it kind of depends. Sometimes jobs require you to be bilingual, so you need both English and French, especially government jobs. And then it would be especially important in Quebec, some northern Ontario villages and cities speak French more so. So it kind of depends on the region, but you can mainly get by, but
Mhm.
some areas would be really useful to have it.
So, I'm sorry, I have a follow-up question. So, are there any Canadians that would not know any English at all, or very little, or how's it really? Those
Yeah.
provinces that speak French much more than, I don't know.
Yeah.
One.
The Statistics Canada does a census where they ask households these kind of questions, like what's your native language, first language, second language, and then it asks specifically about French and English. And last I checked, so there's definitely populations that don't speak English. I think the majority would be immigrants, that if they come in and they don't speak either English or French. So there are people who don't speak either of the official languages and live here. So their first language would be something else. And then there are definitely people who speak French only, who don't speak English.
Who
But
don't
I would
speak
say,
English.
yeah, I would say it's maybe like, I think it was something like 10% or less. So it's not, I don't think it's a big population.
Okay. And actually, looking at the map, I know most. Well, I have friends here and there. So, but there's still regions like what's the right way to pronounce it? Saskatchewan.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah, I
Saskatchewan.
did. Saskatchewan. I've never heard anything about it.
Oh,
Can you
really?
tell us a little bit?
We had someone on our exchange trip who's from Saskatchewan. She's from
Mm-hmm.
a town called Moose Jaw.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fun name. I've personally not been there, actually. I lived in Alberta. That's where I did my undergraduate studies. So that's right next to it.
Here.
So the Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, those three, kind of the green color, they're
Mhm.
called the prairies. So the landscape's a lot more farmland. Saskatchewan, the joke is that it's kind of like flat. There's no like different territory, like it's very flat land, a lot of kind of wheat fields, grain fields,
Mhm.
so that's the kind of stereotype about Saskatchewan. It's like very farm oriented. There's plenty, there are cities there are like Regina, the capital, so there are cities as well, but the majority of it, especially northern Saskatchewan, I would say it's kind of open farmland for a lot part of it.
Lots of nature reserves. Wow, sounds so interesting. And also this region, it looks so there's so much water there. So I guess it's
Yes.
also great to go, for travel.
Yeah, well, that would be kind of more Arctic. Yeah, I assume the water would be very cold. So, but still very beautiful. One interesting thing about the top three, Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut, those are territories, not provinces. I don't know exactly what the difference is. I did that. Actually, that would have been the good fact to know. I did cover that in the presentation I did for the exchange trip.
For the exchange.
But I forget now.
Have you ever traveled there yourself, or
I
not
have
really?
not. I have not. My husband has. He went to the Yukon on a class trip, band trip, actually. He said it was beautiful. So again, I think it's very I would say like clean, like nature, open a lot of the time. But yeah, very Arctic kind of temperatures and things. But in the summertime, some areas has like 24-hour sunlight. And in the wintertime, some days 24-hour darkness. So they have a lot more like opposing days and time
Whoa.
of day.
Sounds so exciting, like a dream.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
me.
it's crazy. I can barely really understand it, and I live here.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, Ivan, anything else? Or Vlad, you're welcome. I just have one question left, so we have some time. It's fine. Ivan or Vlad, you're welcome to ask.
Last question from me.
Mhm.
So as a specialist who communicated with a large number of different people, did you notice any very obvious psychological differences between different nationalities?
Wow, big question. Definitely there would be. I would personally say something that kind of covers a wide variety is the difference between collectivist and individualist cultures. So North America, for example, would be an individualist culture. So the focus is a lot more on you yourself succeeding as an individual, becoming who you are, that kind of idea, where it's a lot more about individual success. Obviously, like people still care about their families, things like that, but the orientation can be more towards the individual, where there's some countries that would be more collectivistic, which are more oriented towards the community. Success is the success of a community. It's more oriented towards like sharing resources, things like that. And so again, not that they probably don't have individual concerns or things like that, but sometimes they can be ignored in favor of for the community or the family, things like that. So that would be like one example where like in psychology there's kind of a continuum of polarities in culture.
Sure. Well, I remember also when I studied psychology, I also remember it was a part of the social psychology course when we studied these differences between the like the cultures that have the collective, how do you call it? The collective oriented cultures and individual oriented. I think it's very interesting. It's also very interesting what happens to an individual or a community when they have to relocate from one place to another, from one type of culture to another type of culture, and how all this transformation process is also very interesting.
Yeah, you see it a lot as well because Canada, multicultural, you see a lot of intercultural couples relationships. So like that's another piece that I'll hopefully be learning a lot more about for like marriage therapy. But like I have a personal friend who is Canadian. She grew up here with French Acadian background, kind of like myself. And she married, he's Canadian born, but half Chinese. So his mom's side, they're all Chinese, like are in Hong Kong, even currently. His mom's like in Canada, but the rest of the family. And that's been something like they've had to wrestle with, is like the differences in what the mom understands, because she was born in China, lived there most of her life, immigrated here. So that's something like they have to kind of navigate, right? Is the difference in like when you when someone becomes older, you live with the family, the kids take care of you, right? And in Canadian culture, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more oriented towards independence. You try to keep that person's independence. You want to make sure they can still have their own space, things like that. So that's something that definitely you can see the culture clash, just in that, the collectivistic versus the individual.
Absolutely same situation here with the people from Russia, for example, like myself. We were used to have our grandparents living with us, which is totally different here, like for Israeli born. Yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah. So, well, unless Vlad has a question, I only have one short question, Vlad, but if you have a question, you first. Do you have anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, fine. So I'll ask my last question. We spoke about the differences between Canadian English and I don't know, American or British. So could you teach us one or two typically Canadian expressions?
Sure. I had a few more like words or concepts that are a little bit more Canadian. I couldn't think of maybe it'll come up as we're talking. But so one interesting thing about I guess that we use in Canadian language is for our money, for the coins. So we have a $1 coin and a $2 coin. And we will, because on the $1 coin, it has the picture of a Canada goose, but we call it a loon. So the $1 is called a loonie.
Loonie.
Yeah. And then the $2 is called a toonie.
Toonie.
Doesn't have a loon on it, but yeah, I just thought it was funny because two loonies, so it's a toonie. So that's one kind of.
Does it have to do with Looney Tunes? I don't know. It just sounds similar.
I think it's
Toonie,
to say
toonie.
it's two loonies, so a toonie. Yeah.
I see. That's so funny.
So that one's interesting. And then I have a funny story that involves Lena. So I told her when we went to Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, and our host mom from Guelph, her family was from there, so we went there for Christmas. And when you're there, there's kind of this special thing that we eat as Canadians that's only available certain places. And in Ottawa, you can get it. It's called a beaver tail. And we told Lena we're gonna go get a beaver tail, and we're all excited. You got to try this. It's like Canadian delicacy. You got to have this. And when we got there, she was surprised that it wasn't meat. It's a pastry.
Oh my gosh! I started
she thought we were
imagining.
gonna eat a literal beaver's tail, but no, it's a delicious pastry, deep fried pastry with cinnamon sugar or Nutella. It's very good.
Whoa, that is so interesting. Right after we finish this program, I'm going to Google it.
Oh, you'll want to come to Canada for these beaver tails. They're very good.
Yeah, well, I'll have to one day. Well, but besides the fact that I really want to visit the Northern Territories and see, you know, the nature, I'll definitely go there for the beaver tail. I promise. Well, Chantal, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck with your studies and with your work, which is, I think, is super important. And yeah,
thank
hopefully
you.
so.
Yep. Thanks a lot. It was really amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice meeting you all. See you, Lena.
Bye.
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 One day in Canada.